Welcome to a special episode of the 301 show. This is the Boys State High School Hockey Tournament review. We did a preview episode about a week ago before the state tournament started, and we will be going over everything that happened at the Boys High School Hockey State Tournament in this episode. Both Class A and Class AA, and we'll be discussing the question throughout of, was this the best state tournament ever?
From the land of 10,000 lakes and just as many heartaches, welcome to the 301 show. We're here to celebrate, commiserate, and maybe, just maybe, see a Minnesota team win it all. Whether you're dreaming of a Vikings Super Bowl, reliving the glory days of the Twins, or still recovering from the Timberwolves roller coaster, we've got you covered. This is the 301 show, where the North remembers and the passion never fades.
If you like this video, please leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel as well if you want more content like this one. We do go over a lot more about the pro teams here in Minnesota, so if you're looking for a place to talk about the pro teams, you have found it here on YouTube. You can also unsubscribe from the channel at any point. Subscribing is absolutely free, and you can also comment down below where you think I am right or wrong, and we can have a discussion down in the comments too. So like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. Let's get into it. All right, let's start here with Class Single A. We'll go in order of the games here, and we'll at least with the quarterfinals, we'll go in order of the schedule, and then we'll do the entire consolation side, and then the entire side that stayed at the Xcel Energy Center. So in the quarterfinals, the first game was Hibbing Chisholm versus Dodge County. That is the number 1 seed Hibbing Chisholm versus the number 8 seed Dodge County. Hibbing Chisholm won that game. Nolan Steele had the lone goal for Dodge County, while Wes Wegner went 43 of 47. So Hibbing Chisholm was just throwing pucks on net in a good way, but they were just peppering Wes Wegner in that one at 11 a.m. on Wednesday. Joe Gabardi and Isaiah Hildebrand had a goal apiece for Hibbing Chisholm. Tate Swanson and Whitaker Rewetz both had a goal and an assist for Hibbing Chisholm, while Gavin Lamphere had 17 saves on 18 assists, or on 18 shots, excuse me. And Hibbing moved on to stay at the Xcel Energy Center, or at Grand Casino Arena, and Dodge County went to this game. Just didn't feel like it was really in question at all. Like, it felt like Hibbing Chisholm just they didn't really keep the foot on the gas, but they just never really felt like Dodge County was gonna get back at all in this game, and it felt like Hibbing Chisholm just kind of had a stranglehold without it being like a complete blowout. 4-1 is probably closer than the gameplay actually showed. Second game of the day at 1 p.m. and again, these second games of each session doesn't actually get started on time, but it's scheduled for 1 o'clock game, was Matamidi versus St. Cloud Cathedral, where Matamidi ended up winning that game 2-1. It was the closest game of the quarterfinals for Single A. Bo Schmidt had the lone goal for the Crusaders, again, as they lost in the first round, which meant that they were unable to defend their title or championship game appearance streak, as they were the runners-up last year, and they were the champions the year before that. So they had their streak of at least appearing in the championship game came to a close. Hunter Moreland stopped 27 out of 29 shots for the Crusaders. He played really, really well. I thought both of these teams actually did play really well, too. On the other side, though, for the Zephyrs, Braden Forrest had a goal along with Will Sievers. Both of them had the 2 goals for Matamidi. And then Jackson Chasick stopped 35 out of 36 shots that he faced. So again, both goaltenders I thought played very, very well in this one, and it was just Matamidi just barely squeaked that one out against the Crusaders. And so, yeah, the Matamidi Zephyrs would move on to play Hibbing Chisholm in the second round, and St. Cloud Cathedral would take on Dodge County in the consolation semifinals. In the third quarterfinal game for Class Single A, we saw number 2 Delano take on number 7 Mankato West. Mankato West coming off of a triple overtime Section 3A final against Laverne down at Gustavus. But they could not continue that momentum, as Delano ended up taking down Mankato West 6-2. Brooks Backel had a goal and an assist. Both goalies got in for Mankato West, as Blake Brecky stopped 45 out of 50 shots on goal, and Mason Schreiber came in for the last few minutes of the game. He did allow 1 goal in his limited time in net. But on the other side, it was the Hallinan show here, the Hallinan and Kangas show, as Dylan Nelson did have a goal for the Delano Tigers, but Lance Hallinan had 2 goals and 4 assists, so he contributed somehow on every single goal that the Tigers scored here in the first round. Brady Kangas had a goal and 3 assists in that one, and Daniel Hallinan had 2 goals and 2 assists. So Brady Kangas, and 2 of the 3 Hallinans were major factors here in this one. Another major factor in this game was Evan Guyan. He stopped 24 out of 26 shots on goal, so just holding it down on the back end for the Tigers. Again, like Mankato West, Delano got both of their goalies in, so they had both goalies were able to play at the Xcel Energy Center. As Lincoln Truex came in for, again, the final minute or 2 of that game. He went 1 for 1 in the shots on goal. So Delano advanced out of the first round, and they would take on the winner here of number 3 Warroad versus number 6 Northern Lakes. Warroad ended up winning this game 5-0. As Sam Suha, the goaltender for Northern Lakes, stopped 33 out of 44 shots. Again, this one just wasn't really that close the entire time. It just was another one, like the Hibbing Chisholm one, game where it just did not get it was just not a close game throughout the entire game. Gavin Anderson for Warroad had a goal and an assist. Ryan Shagaby had 2 goals, and then Avin Honvit had a goal, and Gryson Bentnow also had a goal. Patrick Kennedy stopped 24 out of 24 shots. I did not pull up the graphic here, but I'll tell you here of where my brackets were before this. I'll give an update after every round that we go over. So of these 4 games, I had Hibbing Chisholm winning. They won. I had St. Cloud Cathedral over Matamidi, so I got one wrong there. Then I had Delano over Mankato West and Warroad over Northern Lakes. So I went 3 for 4 in the first round of the Class A quarterfinal, or in the quarterfinals for Class A. In the consolation semifinals, we saw St. Cloud Cathedral take on Dodge County. St. Cloud Cathedral ended up winning this game 7-3. Gabe Koshnet scored all 3 goals for Dodge County. Cameron Koch and Cooper Beebe had 2 assists each in that one. And then Wes Wagner also, I would say, had a pretty good day. That day he ended up making 20. He led in 6 goals, but he stopped 29 out of 35. Did enough to keep him in it, at least relatively in it, where he got pulled at the end for an empty netter. Trevor Hall had 1 goal, 1 assist. Brady Anvik and Elijah Van Heel both had 2 assists for the Crusaders in that one. Bo Schmidt had 1 goal and 2 assists. Griffin Sturm ended up with a hat trick, so we had dueling hat tricks in that game. And then Talon Ruptret and Peyton Russell both scored for the Crusaders as well. Hunter Moreland stopped 21 out of 24 shots, and Blake Kaiser went 1 for 1 on the limited amount of time he got at the end of the game. So the Crusaders ended up advancing to the Class Single A Consolation Championship, while Dodge County would get eliminated at the hands of said Crusaders. Northern Lakes then took on Mankato West. This was 6 versus 7. And as of now, as of that point, we had 0 upsets in terms of seeding. It was the better seed winning every single game up until this point. But Mankato West broke that trend as they were the 7 seed, taking down Northern Lakes 4-1. Kyler Ricola scored a goal for Northern Lakes, as well as Damon John stopped 21 out of the 24 shots that he faced. Keaton Dorzek, Grady Schmidt, and Jacob Tosh each had a goal for Mankato, as well as, or each had a goal and an assist, for Mankato West, as well as Ricky Enter scored the 4th goal for the Scarlets. Then Mason Schreiber stopped 38 out of 39 shots. I actually thought that he was probably the best player in this game for either team, as Northern Lakes actually did put up a barrage of shots, and he was able to, for the most part, except for the one Ricola goal, he was able to shut the door on Northern Lakes. So that set up a consolation championship of number 5 St. Cloud Cathedral and number 7 Mankato West. And I had a consolation championship of Matamidi versus Mankato West, so I did get 1 point there. So through 6 games, I was 4 for 6 on the Class Single A bracket. The consolation championship, again, turned out to be the Crusaders versus the Scarlets, and the Crusaders won that one 6-3. Keaton Dorzek, Grady Schmidt, and Brody Cox all scored. Jacob Tosh had 2 assists for Mankato West. That's all the scoring for Mankato West. Then Blake Bricky had stopped 24 out of 30, and Mason Schreiber got in as well, stopping all 4 shots that he faced. So the Mankato West had both goaltenders play in that one too. Elijah Van Heel scored a hat trick in that one for the Crusaders, getting 3 out of the 6 goals. Caleb Trant had a goal and an assist. Garrett Launch had a goal. Bo Schmidt had 2 assists, and Griffin Sturm had a goal and 2 assists. Blake Kaiser and Hunter Morgan both got in the consolation championship. Hunter Moreland stopped 29 out of the 32 shots that he faced, and Blake Kaiser went 1 for 1 as the Crusaders took down the Scarlet to win 6-3. I did have Mankato West beating Matamidi in this, so I got that one wrong as well. So right now I'm sitting at 4 for 7 on the 7 games that I have gone over here that of the ones that I had predicted. On the other side of the bracket, in the semifinals, still in St. Paul, not over at Mariucci, we had Hibbing Chisholm versus Matamidi, the 1 versus the 4. And again, this one was, I think, closer than I thought it was going to be. This one ended up being a 4-2 game. Will Severs and Cody Loida each had a goal for Matamidi. Jackson Chasik stopped 37 out of the 40 shots that he faced. And then Ben Golly, Cole Swanson, and Jackson Strukel had a goal. Each of them had a goal for Hibbing Chisholm. And Whitaker Ruetz had 1 goal and 1 assist. And Gavin Lamphere, again, playing very well for Hibbing Chisholm, ended up stopping 43 out of 45 shots on goal. Again, I thought Matamidi actually did play very, very well in this one. Again, I was a little bit surprised by it just because I thought Hibbing Chisholm was very, very good. And they are a very, very good team. But Matamidi was holding their own for a lot of it. So they would move on. Hibbing Chisholm, though, would move on to the championship. And then there was the number 2 versus the number 3 in Delano versus Warroad. This is where we get another seeding upset as the number 3 Warroad Warriors took down the number 2 Delano Tigers 6-3. Again, another fantastic game. This was back and forth, and it was a 3-goal game, but it was very, very back and forth. Daniel Hallinan had another great game. He scored 2 goals and 1 assist. In this one, Brady Kangas had 1 goal, 1 assist, and Evan Guyan allowed 5 goals on 36 shots, so he stopped 31 of them. Warroad did have an empty netter in there, so it was really closer to a 5-3 game instead of a 6-3 game. But Evan Guyan, again, I thought with just the attack of Warroad that he played very well too. Gavin Anderson was, again, another very, very good player here for Warroad in this one, as he had 2 goals, 2 assists. Roderick Jackson and Mason Reed both had 2 assists for the Warriors. Casey Hendrickson had 1 goal, 1 assist for 2 points. Ryan Shagaby scored a goal, and Broden Huntvet scored 2 goals for the Warriors. Patrick Kennedy in net stopped 23 of the 26 shots that he faced. As again, the Warriors took down the Tigers by a final score of 6-3. On my predictions, I got both of these games wrong. I had St. Cloud Cathedral versus Hibbing Chisholm, and I picked St. Cloud Cathedral, so that one is wrong because I couldn't, after the first game, I couldn't get that one right. And then I picked Delano over Warroad in this one, which obviously Warroad ended up winning. So in mine, I had St. Cloud Cathedral versus Delano in the championship, and Hibbing Chisholm versus Warroad in the 3rd place game. So in the 3rd place game, the real life 3rd place game, it was number 2 Delano versus number 4 Matamidi, where Matamidi would come back in this game after being down by a couple goals. Or down by a goal a couple different times. They were down 2-1 and 3-2. They would come back and win this one 4-3 in overtime. As again, Daniel Hallinan did well again here, as he had a goal and 2 assists, again contributing to all 3 goals that Delano scored. Which I just want to actually look at something here. As he had, there was only 3 goals in this tournament that Delano scored that Daniel Hallinan was not a part of. He was a part of every single one. Not Daniel Hallinan. That was Lance Hallinan in the first one that contributed to everyone. So there was 2 goals in the first one that Daniel did not contribute to, and 3 in the second one. So there was only 5 goals that Delano scored in this one that he did not contribute to. And they scored, say 6, and they scored 12 goals. So he's contributed to 7 out of the 12 goals that they scored in this tournament. Daniel Hallinan on that one. But then Brady Kangas and Jackson Wallach each had a goal. Evan Guyan had 28 saves on 32 shots on goal. Cale Brummel and Braden Forrest each had a goal for Matamidi. Trevor, I'm going to butcher this name, I do apologize. Rogoshevsky, and Will Severs each had a goal and an assist, and both Matamidi goaltenders got in for this game, as Chesick had 23 saves on 25 shots on goal, and Nico Huberty had 4 saves on 5 shots on goal, as both of them did enough for the Zephyrs to clinch the 3rd place trophy for the Matamidi. Again, I did not predict this game correctly on mine, so I only predicted I've only predicted 3 correct thus far. So of the 10 games that we have gone over, I am sitting at 30%. But in the championship, it was number 1 Warroad, or number 1 Hibbing Chisholm versus number 3 Warroad, and this game might be one of the greatest games in the high school hockey tournament history at this point. I was at this game. It was an absolute blast to be at. Warroad, I will say, was up 3-1 in this game going into the 3rd period, and they looked really, really good. The Warroad looked just dominant over Hibbing Chisholm, and the Hibbing Chisholm fans were just like despondent at this point, and they were just not into it. It was kind of quiet, and it was the student section was trying to get chants going, but they did not seem enthused. And then early in the 3rd, they scored to make it 3-2, and then they scored again to make it 3-3 and tie the game, and the place just went insane. The place was so loud when they tied it in the 3rd period, which they did tie it at 3 with 5.5 minutes left in the game. It was 4.5 minutes left in the game. It was 12:24 into the 3rd period, and then not even a full minute later, 13:15 into the 3rd period, so 3 minutes and 45 seconds remaining. Hibbing scores, Bengali scores to take the lead 4-3, where all they had to do was battle for the last 3 minutes and change, almost 4 minutes, but just over 3.5 minutes left to play. Warroad pulls their goalie, and Gavin Anderson ties it with 45 seconds left on the clock. Gavin Anderson had a massive day for Warroad, 2 goals, 2 assists in that one, including one of those goals being with 45 seconds left in regulation to tie it in a do-or-die situation. Avon Huntvet and Connor Lund each had a goal for Warroad. Isaiah Hildebrandt had a goal and an assist. Whitaker Ruwitz had 2 goals. Bengali had the goal to take the lead, and they sat tied 4-4 heading into overtime. Again, Warroad scored to tie it with 45 seconds left, and exactly 1 minute into overtime, Ryan Shagaby went down the ice with Roderick Jackson and got the rebound to put it in and end this one in overtime, and it gave the Warroad Warriors their first win, their first state title win since the 2005 state championship. So Ryan Shagaby scoring the overtime game winner. I'm sure he did his older brother proud, and now can one-up his older brother, Jackson Shagaby. And as he can now say, I won a state tournament with Warroad and you didn't. Older brother Shagaby can say, I won Mr. Hockey. But Ryan's got the ultimate older or younger brother, bragging rights and scoring the, golden goal at the single A state tournament in front of, I think they said it was like 10,000 fans, over 10,000 fans in attendance for that one. But Warroad goes home as champions, and if you think that game was great, that was the second best game on Championship Saturday. So we'll get into Class AA here shortly, but yeah, Warroad takes home the championship. Hibbing Chisholm gets second place, and the Matamidi Zephyrs are the third place winners, with St. Cloud Cathedral being the consolation champions. All right, moving on to Class AA now, as we take on the big schools segment of this episode. We'll do the same format here. I will also keep you updated on what my bracket look like, which I'll tell you now, this one is a hell of a lot better than the Class Single A. You can also go check the 301 Show Instagram account. Go follow us there. But I did post both of these if you want to actually see what my bracket looked like, and follow along. But the first game for the quarterfinals was Minnetonka versus Gentry Academy. And again, like the 1 versus 8 in single A, this game could have been a lot worse. Minnetonka just dominated Gentry. They won 5-0. Gavin Gross stopped 28 out of 33 shots on goal. Ref Reller stopped 18 of 18 in his period of action that he played. Liam Schultz for Minnetonka had 2 goals, 1 assist. Cooper Ranow had a goal. Cash Hardy had 2 goals, 2 assists. Max Aronson had 3 assists. And Chase Jurdy had 12 saves on 12 shots on him. Minnetonka, again, just dominated this from start to finish. There's, again, in my opinion, just not really a question of who was going to win this one, just by how they were playing. So Minnetonka moved on to the semifinals. The second game was the 4 versus the 5. This was Rosemont versus Grand Rapids. Rosemont ended up winning this one in overtime, 3-2. Again, like single A, this was the only 1-score, 1-goal game in the quarterfinals for AA. Both of the 4 versus 5 in each class was a 1-goal game. For Grand Rapids, Jamison Duell and Ander Rahala each scored a goal. Luke Sherlock stopped 37 out of 40 shots on goal. He was very good in net for the Thunderhawks. Cade Sherman had a goal and an assist for Rosemont. Gavin McNeil, again, didn't score, but had 3 assists on the day. So he played very, very well. Oliver Gorin, Channing Goodwin each had a goal for Rosemont. And then Sam Clemens stopped 35 out of 37 shots on him. So Rosemont, again, this was just way more back and forth than any other game in the first round here for Class AA. Rosemont would end up going on to play Minnetonka in the semifinals, while Gentry takes on Grand Rapids in the consolation semifinals. As I'm trying to close my door behind me, I had my door cracked open a little bit. We'll close it, though, as there's a little bit of noise. But then the third game of the quarterfinals was number 2 Moorhead versus number 7 Lakeville South. And Moorhead trying to do what East Grand Forks couldn't do in single A and actually defend their title. East Grand Forks didn't even make it to the state championship, but Moorhead was the defending champions, so they are the number 2 seed. They're taking on Lakeville South, and Moorhead would win and take that next step to be the back-to-back defending champions. Moorhead wins 4-1. Tristan Lawrence scored the lone goal for Lakeville South. And then Keaton LeGrand stopped 29 out of 33 shots on goal, while it was the Cullen show on the other side. Max Cullen had 2 goals. Joey Cullen had 1 goal. Tyden Bergensen had a goal and an assist. And Will Arnold stopped 23 out of the 24 shots that he faced, as the Spuds, again, taking that next step to defend their title. As they win 4-1. Last game of the day, the late game, the 8 p.m. game. Edina, number 3 Edina taking on number 6 Andover. The Hornets beat the Huskies in this one 3-1, as Jack Rakelli has the lone goal for the Huskies. Wyatt Reimer stopped 45 of 48. Again, just an absolute pepper show from the Hornets on Reimer. Bode McConnell actually scored all 3 goals for the Edina Hornets in this game, as he had a hat trick. So there's only 2 goal scorers in this game that combined for 4 goals on either side. And then Chase Bjorgard played really well for the Edina Hornets. Stopped 25 out of 26 shots on goal. I've covered a couple of his games so far in his high school career with my work at MN Hockey TV. So yeah, that meant that Moorhead would take on Edina in the other in the other actual semifinal. In the consolation semifinal, it was Lakeville South versus Andover. And through 4 games, I went 4 for 4. I had Minnetonka, Rosemont, Moorhead, and Edina in those 4 games. And again, I know it's easy to say that it's easy to just go with the chalk and just have the top seeds win when you're making predictions, but then it actually happens, and it happened in both of the first rounds, where the top 4 seeds moved on in both single A and double A. In the consolation semis, again, like I said, we had Grand Rapids versus Gentry. Grand Rapids ended up winning this game by a final score of 4-2. Braden Boyce and Colin Hennis each scored a goal for Gentry, while Reller stopped 42 out of 45 shots on goal for Gentry. Grant Verschy, Will Sherman, Ander Rahala, and Dylan Clayton each scored a goal for Grand Rapids, while Seth Carlson racked up 2 assists, and Luke Sherlock put up 13 saves on the 15 shots that he faced. The other consolation semifinal is Andover versus Lakeville South, and we'll get, again, like in the last one, our first seeded upset, as number 7 Lakeville South took down number 6 Andover by a final score of 4-3 in overtime. Camden Langfeld, Dylan Larson, and Keaton Coe all scored for Andover. Well, Wyatt Reimer stopped 33 out of the 37 shots that he faced. Tristan Lawrence, Roan Riel, Carter Ernst all scored for Lakeville South. Charlie Hunst had a goal and an assist for Lakeville South. And Keaton LeGrand stopped 31 out of the 34 shots that he faced. Again, I did have these two matchups picked correctly in Gentry versus Grand Rapids and Lakeville South versus Andover. And I picked the winners correctly in this one, too. I had Grand Rapids and Lakeville South, each moving on to the Consolation Championship. So, again, it's number 5 Grand Rapids versus number 7 Lakeville South. Grand Rapids would win this one and take home the Consolation Championship by a final score of 6-2. Nate Nyer and Kelvin O'Reilly each scored a goal for Lakeville South, while Corbin Shanley stopped 16 of the 21 shots that he faced, and Keaton LeGrand stopped 10 out of the 11 that he faced in that. They got both of them in. As for Grand Rapids, Seth Carlson had 2 goals and 1 assist. Ethan Larson and Dylan Clayton each had a goal. And then Ander Rahala and Will Miskovich each had a goal and 1 assist. Grand Rapids got all 3 of their goaltenders in this game. Luke Sherlock stopped 28 out of 30 shots that he faced. Levi Westby stopped the only shot that he faced. He was 1 for 1. And then Grant Olson was in for about a minute where he did not face a single shot on goal. So Grand Rapids wins 6-2 and takes home the Consolation Championship. And Grand Rapids in my bracket won. So I predicted this one again. So far, I am perfect through the 7 games that we have gone over on the Class AA bracket. Again, if you don't believe me, go check out the 301 Show Instagram page. You'll see that I posted both of my brackets on Wednesday. It is time-stamped for that. Minnetonka and Rosemont took on each other in the semifinals for AA. Minnetonka ended up taking down Rosemont 4-3 in overtime. Again, this was another very, very good, very close game. Again, it's not really surprising, and Minnetonka is the 1 seed. They have been either 1 or 2 seed, I feel like, all season long, or 1 or 2 ranked all season long. But Rosemont has been in that kind of 4 to 7 range all season. So this was not surprising that this game was this close. Cade Sherman and Peter DeGroot both had goals for Rosemont. Connor Schubert had a goal and an assist. And Drew Sherman stopped 41 out of 45 shots. Again, he was probably the best player in this game. It was him or this other guy, Ethan Sturgis, who had 2 goals for the Skippers. So those were probably the 2 best players for either team on the ice. Cash Hardy had a goal and an assist. His goal was the overtime game-winning goal for the Skippers, and then Mason Schimenauer had a goal for the Skippers. Chase Jurdy stopped 15 out of the 18 shots that he faced, as again the Skippers took down Rosemont in overtime. The next one is the number 2 versus number 3. Moorhead versus Edina. The Moorhead Spuds would end up going up 3-1 in this game. Goals from Zach Zimmerman, Michael Herman each had goals. Tyden Bergensen had a goal and 2 assists. Alex White would answer back with a goal of him for himself for the Hornets, but that would not be enough, and Moorhead would win this one 3-1. Chase Bjorgard stopped 16 out of the 19 shots that he faced in this game. Will Arnold stopped 18 out of the 19 shots that he faced in this one. And there was a massive fight at the end of this game. And it was literally, as the final whistle blew, Moorhead was hopping over the bench already to do the post-game celebration on the ice, the stick tap salute, as a fight broke out between the players on the ice, and it just escalated from there. So again, I will see if I can find it. Otherwise, I'm sure you can find it on social media if you have not seen it already. In fact, I know you can find it on Twitter. So I'll try to link it down below in the description. If not, just look up Edina versus Moorhead fight, and you'll be able to find it. But yeah, that was the second semifinal game for Class AA. For the third place game, we saw for my predictions, Minnetonka versus Rosemont. I did pick Minnetonka to win that one, so I am now 8 for 8. And then Moorhead versus Edina, I did pick Moorhead, so I am 9 for 9 through the 9 games that we have gone over so far. Third place saw Edina versus Rosemont in that one. And Rosemont ended up beating Edina 4-2. Blake Miller and Brady Peterson scored for Edina, the only 2 goals. Chase Borgard, I think, again, had another good, really, really good game. 37 saves on 41 shots on goal. Cade Sherman for Rosemont had 2 goals, 2 assists. Again, probably the player of the game between the 2 teams. Connor Schubert and Channing Goodwin each had a goal and an assist, while Drew Sherman stopped 17 of the 19 shots on goal, as Rosemont would take down the Edina Hornets to win the third place trophy, and win that game 4-2. In my bracket, my prediction was a 3-0 game, so did not get the score right, but I did have Rosemont defeating Edina. So in terms of just team predictions, I am now 10 for 10 on this one. In the finals, the 1 versus the 2 seed, and they've been the top 2 teams basically all year long, just going back and forth. Minnetonka did win the regular season meeting between these 2 teams. Moorhead looking for their revenge, looking to go back-to-back. Minnetonka looking to prove that the 1 seeds are the 1 seed for a reason, and avenge the 1 seed loss in the Class Single A bracket, which they did a very, very good job of starting that way, as Jordan Johnson, Ethan Sturgis, and Cash Hardy each score for Minnetonka. And that was all in the first period, in the first 11 minutes of the first period, as Minnetonka would take a 3-0 lead. Then in the second period, Michael Herman would score for the Spuds to make it 3-1 and give the Spuds a little bit of life at this point. But then Minnetonka would, with a minute and a half remaining in the period, score to make this game 4-1. But again, you can never count the defending champs out, as Joey Cullen scored with an assist from Zach Zimmerman. I'm going to remember Zach Zimmerman's name, but Joey Cullen scored to make this game 4-2. That was 6 minutes, almost 7 minutes into the third period. Then 10:24 into the third period, Zach Zimmerman scored, and that made it 4-3. So Zach Zimmerman has now 2 points in the period, 1 goal, 1 assist. And with 35 seconds remaining on the clock, an empty net for Moorhead, Zach Zimmerman scores again to give the Moorhead Spuds a chance, a dying chance, or a chance in the dying seconds of the period and what would have been the game. and he ties it for Moorhead 4-4. So they end up going to overtime. They play the 8-minute first overtime period. It's still tied 4-4. They resurface the ice. They come back. They're playing a 17-minute period now. Again, it is still sudden death. So if either team scores, it's just over. But if neither team scores, they'll play another 17 minutes. But they will not need 17 minutes. They would need 10 minutes and 36 seconds. And Evan Warner scores for the Spuds on assist from Max Cullen and Finn Paulson. So Moorhead takes down Minnetonka to win 5-4 in double overtime. Chase Jurdy for the Skippers stopped 20 out of the 25 shots that he faced. Will Arnold stopped 31 of the 35 shots that he faced. I also want to shout out Brandon Mickelson. He had 3 assists on the day. Max Cullen had 2 assists on the day, but Zach Zimmerman, 2 goals and 1 assist, all in the third period. Ended up getting the one to tie it with 35 seconds left. Again, I know Evan Warner's goal was the double overtime game winner, but if I had to pick a player of that game, it would be Zach Zimmerman, for even giving them a chance, even giving the Spuds a chance to win that game. In terms of my bracket, I was actually very right with this one. I picked Moorhead to take down Minnetonka, and I predicted that they would win by a final score of 5-4. I did not predict that they would go into overtime, but I predicted the score correct, and I predicted the team correct. So if you're keeping track at home in terms of just the teams, I wasn't really keeping track of all the scores because that's just way too hard to predict. I just wanted to see if I could predict any of the scores correct, but what mattered to me the most was just who won. On the Class AA bracket, I went a perfect 11-4-11. So yeah, that the question that I asked at the beginning, was this the greatest tournament ever? I'm going to say yes, and I think that is up for a little bit of a debate, but I think the question that is not up for debate that is that it was by far and away, the best championship Saturday that we have seen at the high school hockey state tournament. Those 2 championship games, and there were 2 good third place games too, with one of them going into overtime and the other one was just a 4-2 game. I think that was by far and away the best championship Saturday that we have ever seen at the high school hockey state tournament. All right, I do want to thank you for joining us on this special episode of the 301 Show, the 2026 Boys High School Hockey State Tournament Review. If you would like me to go over more high school sports, high school hockey in Minnesota, please let me know down in the comments. That is definitely something I can do. But if you just like the pro sports coverage that we have here on the 301 Show YouTube channel, that is perfectly okay as well. And if you do want to talk, those types of sports, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. Leave a like down below on this one too. That's the easiest way to show that you want me to continue talking about Minnesota high school hockey. If you want me to broaden it, leave a comment down below if you want me to broaden it to all the other high school sports. But if you want just high school hockey, just leave a like. Leave a like if you did like this episode too. And you can leave any other questions, comments where you agree, disagree with me down in the comments as well. Be sure to like or subscribe to the channel as well, and you'll be getting more Minnesota sports content in your feed, as well as interviews from Minnesota athletes, whether they played here or they're from here. If you want to hear from Owen Korkish, he played at Park of Cottage Grove. You can find that on the channel as well. He was a hockey player at Park of Cottage Grove and is now up in Prince Albert. So if you want more of that, again, subscribe to the channel. You can always unsubscribe later, and it is completely free to subscribe and unsubscribe as well. So we will see you next time. Peace.